I'm Lauren Woolbig, Chair of the Illinois State Water Plan Task Force. Thank you for taking time to watch the State Water Plan public outreach presentation. This presentation is intended to showcase draft recommendations that are being developed as part of the second phase of the State Water Plan update effort, the development of water issue recommendations phase. Through this public outreach effort, the State Water Plan Task Force seeks your confirmation and/or insights to the key water topic recommendations initially developed for the updated plan and briefly presented in the slides that follow. Thank you for your participation in this effort. The State Water Plan Task Force has divided the plan update process into 3 steps shown here. The task force is currently engaged in the second step of the process and are developing and refining recommendations related to each of the 13 critical water issues highlighted in the plan. This update to the State Water Plan seeks to provide a unified 5-year focus on key water topics in the state to help guide the state's water programs, expenditures, and activities in an equitable manner in these areas. This slide indicates the 13 key water issues highlighted in the update to the State Water Plan, the lead agency associated with each key issue, and the lead individual in that agency. The updated State Water Plan provides opportunity for unified voices to spotlight and introduce key water issue recommendations, including social and environmental justice issue recommendations, to elected officials and key leaders in the state of Illinois.
Climate change is expected to play a role in nearly all aspects of managing future water resources in Illinois to varying degrees. While climate and climate change are mentioned under several topics in this report, this section of the report focuses on a few specific recommendations for efforts needed to improve our ability to properly take climate change into account in planning. Some important climate change issues that have particularly large uncertainties are flash droughts, seasonal rainfall variability, and land use. For example, it is critical for us to better understand what sectors are expected to be most impacted by short-term intense flash droughts and what those impacts will be. What impacts would be expected from anticipated large increases in spring rainfall? The long-term increasing or decreasing trends in summertime rainfall, which is critical to strong crop yields in the state, are particularly uncertain. Finally, as Illinois land use changes through evolving urban, agricultural, and natural areas, how will this affect the Illinois water cycle? We recommend efforts to make climate change data readily available to users and to better communicate the risks of climate change to Illinois water resources. Research is needed to properly integrate societal needs and climate processes in fair and just mitigation strategies. Finally, it is important to develop a better understanding of how climate changes in winter affect Illinois water throughout the year. Among several topics related to agriculture, we recommend improving our understanding of how climate change impacts and is impacted by agricultural and livestock-related practices, and how will invasive species respond to changes in seasonal climate. We need to better understand how urban heat islands add to climate changes to produce extreme heat waves. Finally, how will changes in compound extreme weather events affect water resources? All of these uncertainties should be investigated to reliably take climate change into account in Illinois water planning.
Integrated water management. Just like there are many aspects to water, such as water quality, water supply, stormwater runoff, groundwater, wetlands, there are also many aspects to the way that we manage these aspects of water, and many state, federal, and local programs to match. Recommended actions to strengthen communication, collaboration, and connection across existing water-related state, federal, and local agency programs in Illinois to holistically evaluate and address water-related issues in an equitable manner, particularly in under-resourced and disadvantaged communities, include recommendation number 1, establish and fund an Illinois Flood Center. As shown on this slide, this would be created in the Prairie Research Institute within the University of Illinois and could serve a multitude of purposes as listed on this slide for the benefit of all those engaged in water resource engineering and regulations and management. Recommendation number 2, utilize water loss information and water supply improvement plan information by the Illinois DNR Office of Water Resources in conjunction with the Illinois EPA State Revolving Fund to prioritize the use of the state revolving funds. Recommendation number 3, reestablish and staff and fund a local assistance program in the Office of Water Resources. Among other goals, this program could listen, learn, and lead via intentional community visits to assess those communities' water-related resiliency, vulnerabilities, and needs for flooding, water supply, infrastructure concerns, NFIP regulatory compliance, and social justice issues, and to be an advocate to help navigate state, federal, and local programs and available resources. Recommendation number 4 is to develop consistent program funding across all state agencies. Currently, that is not the case. And recommendation number 5 is to expand the Illinois Mitigation Advisory Group that reviews and prioritizes mitigation actions across the state of Illinois.
Water sustainability is one of the 13 topics included in the State Water Plan update. For background information on water sustainability, please see our first public outreach presentation. We have broken up the recommendations into 3 categories: funding, stakeholder involvement and outreach, and planning and studies. For funding, we are looking to prioritize State of Illinois resources to assist vulnerable and low-income communities and evaluate opportunities to expand the revolving loan fund. For stakeholder involvement and outreach, the recommendations include continued development of the regional water supply committees and ensure data is readily available for their support, and improving report structure to include capital improvement project needs. We will work with the regional committees to develop strategies for water supply emergencies. Lastly, we will seek to improve public outreach and education on state agencies' roles and responsibilities regarding water supply. The last category covers planning and studies. This includes regularly updating the statewide water supply assessment of forecasted water demands and supplies for identified water sustainability concerns. The goal is to make the data easily accessible to the public in useful formats. We propose new and updated studies for climate change, such as lake evaporation rates. It is also recommended that the State of Illinois Drought Preparedness and Response Plan be updated to improve response efficiencies. Lastly, we propose evaluating methods to improve the accuracy of high-capacity well water use reporting. Thank you, and we hope to receive your input on these water sustainability recommendations for the State Water Plan.
Lake Michigan. Over 8 million people in Illinois rely on this Great Lake for their daily water use, as do many businesses, manufacturing facilities, and an abundance of aquatic life in northeastern Illinois. In addition to its natural beauty, the lake supports large boating, fishing, recreation, and tourism economies, not forgetting to mention a sustainable food source for many lower-income families. Lake Michigan recommendations are provisionally categorized under 2 principal headings: water supply and lake resiliency and economics. As indicated on this water supply slide recommendations, these recommendations cover increased education and outreach efforts, improved annual water use reporting, expanded community water supply system assistance and an annual water allocation fee to support that assistance, and prioritization of states' revolving funds to improve water supply systems, particularly in disadvantaged communities. This next slide lists draft lake resiliency and economic recommendations for Lake Michigan that cover enhanced coastal resilience, sustainable coastal tourism and recreation opportunities, expanded maritime transportation, offshore wind energy, coastal habitat and wetland enhancements, and to focus on improving the economic viability of our port communities.
Hello, my name is Tara McParland, and today we will be talking about the flood damage mitigation topic. Flooding is Illinois' most prominent natural disaster. Our goal is to reduce adverse impacts due to flooding. We will divide our discussion into hazard identification and mitigation. Long-term precipitation records show that Illinois has become wetter. We need to update rainfall and land use predictions. Our second issue is related to outdated models. We need to utilize data from new technology to provide non-regulatory models for use at the planning and response recovery stages. We also would like to develop a clearinghouse of all those models. Our next issue is related to flood hazard and prediction tools. We need to generate flood inundation mapping for all communities at varying flood levels. Structural damage assessments help to determine best use of flood prevention and mitigation efforts, so we need to complete coverage for the entire state. Our fourth issue is related to equity. Flood insurance information is not readily available for areas outside the MAP floodplain, so vulnerable populations might unknowingly be impacted by both riverine and urban flooding. We should add legislation to require full disclosure for all property sales. Next, we'll talk about mitigation. Existing flood protection infrastructure is deteriorating and failing. We need to perform upgrades and construct new projects focusing on locations that will assist socioeconomically disadvantaged areas. Our last issue is related to natural systems. Communities need assistance with grant writing, partnering, and planning for employing new natural solutions. We suggest forming a guidance group made up of experts to provide support. Flood prevention strategies are not generally developed at a watershed level, which misses opportunities for cost-sharing, economies of scale, and better long-term solutions. We suggest providing incentives to communities for partnering. Future efforts were also identified and include the following recommendations. To obtain some community grants, the county has to include the need on their action plan to access funding for the following year. We need to develop an infrastructure database and a priority list of upgrades focusing on socioeconomic and best value projects. And finally, we need to provide incentives to communities and update regulation and standards to allow multi-benefit natural and green designs. All of our recommendations will require legislative changes and/or funding from the General Assembly to implement. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Steve Altman. I am with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, Office of Water Resources. I'm also the lead for the regulatory topic for the Illinois State Water Plan Task Force. We've come up with two recommendations through our committee meetings and through the open houses that we would like to pass on moving forward the State Water Plan. The first is to look for improvements needed for existing rules and legislation. The second is to develop new legislation. Thank you.
The goal for aquatic and riparian habitat is to have physical, biological, hydrological, and chemical components and processes which support diverse, self-sustaining plant and animal communities in our waters and riparian areas. Illinois' aquatic and riparian habitat falls short of this goal. Approximately two-thirds of Illinois land area is disturbed by agricultural, urbanization, or mining, and only half of riparian corridors are vegetated. There are approximately 2,300 permitted discharges into Illinois' flowing water, and hundreds of thousands of tons of nutrients enter Illinois' waters annually from non-point sources. This results in impaired status for approximately half of assessed waters. There are also barriers to achieving the goal for aquatic and riparian habitat. First, the biological, chemical, and physical monitoring of Illinois' waters occurs at a low resolution, making status and trend evaluations difficult. Second, Illinois water and drainage law favor private rights over public or the environment. Three broad recommendations are identified to alleviate these barriers and move closer to the goal for aquatic and riparian habitat. First, to enhance or protect aquatic and riparian habitat structures and processes. This may include implementing or incentivizing best management practices on public and private lands, enhancing connectivity through barrier removal, and identifying and protecting groundwater. Second, improving aquatic and riparian habitat data coverage, resolution, and integration. This may include increasing the number of locations where data are collected, increasing the frequency of data collection events, and improving interagency data sharing. And third, prioritize aquatic and riparian habitat in state policy and law by fully utilizing or expanding existing processes, like public water designations for environmental impact review, and establishing new processes like minimum flow standards or revenue for habitat enhancement.
Welcome to the State Water Plan Update navigation section. In previous outreach efforts, the main navigation issues were identified as being in the areas of infrastructure, technological improvements, and channel health. Infrastructure includes ports, locks and dams, and bridges. Many of these structures are deteriorating, and others are forced to limit capacity due to their outdated size or capabilities. Technological issues revolve around the safety and security of the ports, their employees, and their customers. Channel health involves three related areas: size and depth, maintenance and dredging, and environmental concerns. Many of Illinois waterways are often too narrow and shallow, which slows modern barge traffic. Without dredging, flooding and sediment deposits also slow traffic. And finally, fragile flora and fauna are being damaged by sediment buildup, chemicals, land development, and invasive species. These navigation issues could be ameliorated by factors such as the consistent passage of the Water Resources Development Act, partnerships between the state of Illinois and other transportation stakeholders to pursue funding, adaptation, and sharing of new technological advancements, and a commitment to conservation, eradication of invasive species, and a more balanced use of the waterways. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Seth Love. Myself and Brendan Caputo are co-chairs of the Water-Based Recreation Committee within the State Water Plan Task Force. The Water-Based Recreation Committee has been tasked with not only identifying key issues which need addressed to ensure continued water recreation opportunities within Illinois, but also recommending actions to correct these issues. We have identified three issues: access, the Asian carp invasion, and limited recreational opportunity awareness. First, we are recommending that current access points, such as boat ramps and parks, continue to be maintained in order for continued public usage. We also recommend the number of sites available to the public be increased when and where appropriate. Secondly, we recommend the continuation of the Asian carp monitoring and removal programs, as high Asian carp densities are an impediment to water-based recreation. No one wants to get hit in the head by an Asian carp. As such, reducing Asian carp densities may minimize these unpleasant encounters and facilitate greater public enjoyment of Illinois' river systems. Not only will population reduction make recreating more enjoyable, but it will also help protect our native ecosystems. Thirdly, we are recommending that efforts should be made to increase public recreational opportunity awareness. Information could be distributed through a number of avenues, including social media and traditional ad campaigns, such as radio and/or television. Illinois has some amazing waterways and water bodies that unfortunately may not get the attention they deserve. By increasing public awareness, Illinois could become a Midwestern recreating destination.
Hi, my name is Laura Kiefer, the lead for the Stream Data Management critical topic. Stream data is a cross-cutting issue, supplying important data for several other critical issues proposed in the State Water Plan update. These include flooding, water sustainability or drought, water quality, aquatic habitat, and navigation. Climate also has a tremendous influence on stream flow. The Stream Data Management Committee proposes recommendations for the three main issues previously identified in Phase 1. First, expansion of stream monitoring in rural or small watersheds. Stream flow reacts differently in these types of watersheds as opposed to larger rivers. Shifts in climate to more extreme rainfall events and flash droughts makes it important to have real-time stream flow or water level data for water management planning, such as hazards warning or future water security for these types of vulnerable areas. Second, maintain current long-term continuous monitoring stations, as well as not lose any more stations that we have. Long data sets are needed to determine trends that inform resource managers and policymakers of the adequacy of water quality and quantity and make plans to sustain those resources into the future. Maintaining current short-term stations is an investment in future long-term data records. Finally, form a working group to evaluate the current stream data networks already within the state, assess the expanding needs of federal, state, and local entities for more stream flow and water level data, including in vulnerable communities, and develop a business plan that would leverage, coordinate, seek funding, and promote support for a statewide stream data collaborative. This collaborative to sustain, enhance, and expand a stream gauging network can draw on successes in our neighboring states.
At this time, we do not have draft recommendations for the water quality and erosion and sediment management topics. Please see the contacts on this slide if you have further questions. The remaining State Water Plan Task Force is as follows. As you can see in the bold black text, we have our two remaining outreach Q&A sessions. This one for the recommendations section will occur on May 5th, 6th, and 7th at 6 p.m., 2 p.m., and 10 a.m. respectively. We'll also have our final public outreach meetings on the week of November 15th. Also on this slide, you will see on the red text is our upcoming State Water Plan meetings. And lastly, we have some other critical dates just shown in regular black, including our closing of public comments period on June 25th and our goal of publishing the report at the end of the calendar year. Please note these dates are subject to change, and we encourage you all to visit our State Water Plan Task Force website, which we'll show on the last slide, to view any updates to this schedule or any other information pertaining to the State Water Plan. Once again, we are asking for your assistance with this public outreach. First, we ask you to help us spread the word. Is there any colleagues or constituents that you know that may benefit from watching this pre-recorded presentation? We ask you to share this opportunity with others that may not be aware of it so that we can help get the word out to all the citizens of Illinois so they have the opportunity to have their voices heard. Second, we ask you to complete the public comment survey that is on the State Water Plan Task Force website. Consider if there's any major recommendations that were overlooked, or if you disagree with any of the proposed recommendations, we'd like to hear that as well. Lastly, feel free to join the Q&A sessions that will be happening on May 25th, 26th, and 27th to speak with the lead individuals for each of the 13 topics and have your questions answered. Lastly, we again just ask for your support for state employees to assist if there's any way possible. For more information, including updated schedules, contacts, and supporting documents, we encourage you to see our State Water Plan website as shown on the screen and to take the public outreach survey. We also hope that you join us for our Q&A sessions. Thank you again for watching this presentation.